Boa tarde, eu sou a Natália Vira, editora do Exame Insight, e eu estou aqui hoje no evento do FII Institute, promovido aqui no Rio de Janeiro, numa aproximação entre Brasil e Arábia Saudita. Hoje quem está comigo aqui no nosso estúdio é o Ryad, que é o presidente do FII Institute, está aqui para contar um pouco para a gente da intenção desse evento e da atração de investimentos aí, dessa relação que está se aproximando entre os dois países. Richard, you're very welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
For having me.
And congratulations on this, such a beautiful event.
Thank you.
The FII conference has consolidated as one of the main conferences for business people and for politics in the last 8 years, I guess. And it's the first time that you guys are here in Latin America. I wonder what does this event being held here now represents for the relationship between Saudi Arabia and Brazil and for the Global South approximation?
In fact, your point is extremely important. For the past 7 years, we started this global conversation on investment in Riyadh. And it became probably, in total humility, the #1 investment conference in the world. But what we have realized is what so many people were coming to Riyadh from Asia, from Europe, from the United States, from the Middle East, and even from Africa, very few are coming from Latin America. I was trying to understand why. Was it a language barrier? Was it because it's too far? And at the end of the day, we never got the explanations. So when the world don't come to you, you come to the world. So this is why we decided a year ago to come to Latin America, because at least 3 reasons. Number one, we are talking about a continent of 700 million people, which is growing. Number two, it is a continent of natural resources, the continent of renewable energy, the continent of very young talent, the continent which is quite peaceful, to be honest. So how can you ignore a continent with so many opportunities and so many assets? And point number 3, 7 years ago when we started FII, we mentioned that the geoeconomics was realizing a big shift between the West and the East, the North and the South. And we already spoke a lot about this new Global South. And who represent the most the Global South? Presently Latin America, and in particular, as a gateway to Latin America, Brazil. Brazil, which is a very important country, 200 plus million people, BRICS, member of the G20. And I had the privilege to know President Lula during his first mandate. So when he was re-elected, we had the opportunity to discuss about how can we support Brazil. He came to Saudi Arabia by coincidence in November, and we decided with the leadership of Saudi Arabia, the country where the FII Institute was born, to come to Brazil, and here we are.
Was it by coincidence or there is a bigger approximation between the two countries? How is this relationship nowadays?
I can tell that the relationship between the two leaders, President Lula and the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia, started very strongly. They met a few times at the G20 in Japan, hosted an important visit in Saudi Arabia, and I think they have not the same age, not the same generation, but the same passion. The same passion, the same leadership. And they care about people. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has a vision, Vision 2030. If you look at this vision, which is an amazing roadmap, which I really encourage everyone to read because it is very instructive to see how a leader has a program for his country.
Yeah, and for the long term, right?
And for the long term, and this is how people are supporting, because they have a vision also, and they know where the leadership is going. So when you look at that, you say, okay, they are sharing and the same values about caring about people, and how to bring dignity to people, how to build inclusive societies. So this is why I think the chemistry between the two leaders were extremely strong, and we are one of the, I would say, illustration of this great relationship, this great partnership which is starting. This is why we are here today. We are just, I would say, the visible face of the iceberg, which I'm sure that many more will come between these two countries and also between the Kingdom and Latin America in general, thanks to Brazil being the gateway to Latin America.
Taking that as a segue, the theme of this conference is investing in dignity. I think that it summarizes all these values that both countries share. What are the main topics that Brazil and Saudi Arabia, Latin America, and the East can cooperate when we're talking about renewable energy, inclusion, maybe food security? Can you name a few and how we can cooperate on that?
You just mentioned all of them.
Okay.
And you are absolutely right. The opportunities are huge and they are multiple in definitely renewable energy. Mm-hmm. President Lula, when he came to Saudi Arabia in November, he said, I want Brazil to be the Saudi Arabia of renewable energy. Yeah. So definitely it is happening. The potential you have in hydrogen, the potential you have in solar is immense, and it corresponds to also the strategy of the kingdom in terms of renewable energy. Yeah. Number two, agriculture, food, huge. The country, the Brazil, as you know, your country could become one of the most important reservoir of providing food to the world. And you know that there is a lot of issues in food security. So if co-investment could come together in Brazil, I think it will be a great impact. So food and alimentation. Number three, absolutely important, mining. Okay. Mining is huge. Each single industry today in the world needs mining. Yeah. From even renewable energy. Absolutely. And also when you build the artificial intelligence system, they use data centers. Yeah. Data centers to be built, they need materials and they need renewable energy because there is a lot of energy consumption. So definitely everything related to mining is important. Last but not least, everything related to water is also a very important sector.
And we have in abundance
and many more, including soccer, football.
No, I wanted to talk to you about that because when you talk about Saudi Arabia, we think about oil. Now we think about renewable energies as well because it's a really important sector there in the transition to renewable energies. But we also are really important in sports and in sports. Could you tell us a little bit more about that? Because it's so curious for us.
I think the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the Crown Prince in particular, they are totally supportive of what the late Nelson Mandela was saying. Nelson Mandela, the former president of South Africa, was saying, sport is an amazing tool for social progress and economic development. So today, in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is investing billions in sport and entertainment. They have an amazing league. Neymar, the famous Brazilian footballer, is playing in Saudi Arabia, and many more. Ronaldo from Portugal, etc. So football is extremely popular, and it is creating a lot of industries. E-sport is becoming
really
huge now in Saudi Arabia. So I see here other field of collaboration. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia will potentially host the World Cup in 2034, and I think they should collaborate because Brazil is, in the perception of everyone, the nation of football. I was born with one hero, Pele.
Yeah.
Everyone, Pele. So
when you come to Brazil, you think about beaches and Pele.
Exactly. So this is why I think it's another area of very strong potential collaboration and cooperation.
Richard, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
For joining us. Obrigada, até a próxima.